The graphics are amazing in this game. From the characters, the lighting, the effects, the landscapes, the crappy looking trees. Yeah, the trees are my only nitpick with the graphics. If you look at them, you can see that they look like cardboard cutouts or something. Yeah, I know this is a minor thing, but there are enough trees in the game that I felt like commenting on it. To show this really isn't a big deal for me, look at this. There is a reason why the gorgeous view comment gets you humanity. This game is a perfect example of how sound affects a game. The lack of music for most of the game really sets the atmosphere. On top of that, it makes the times when there is music, pretty much boss fights, seem much more epic. This does mean the sound effects play a larger role in the game though. Good thing they only help out the game then. Being able to hear enemies around you really helps and is a bit unnerving at the same time. If you hear a groan or the sound of armor rustling and you can't see where it's coming from, yeah, it puts you on edge. And in a game like this, where death can come swiftly if you get ambushed, this atmosphere really makes the game much more fun. The story is, for lack of a better word, mostly hidden. The overall goal of the player is told to you, but details about things, yeah, you have to go looking for them. This is an issue from Demon Souls, though it is better here. You get some narration here from both the introduction, which explains the starting parts of the game, and from both the serpents later on. This does bridge the two sections of the game, so you always know what your goal is. It's just you don't know who the bosses you fight are in the areas you go to. Now, you can learn these things by looking at certain item descriptions and by talking to certain NPCs at the correct time. You could argue that this makes the game more realistic, as you don't normally have people standing around explaining everything to you, and while that is true, it still ends up hurting the game because you feel detached from the game world. As for the story itself, well, it isn't the strongest. Most of that is certainly from how the story itself is presented, but also the ending is rather a downer. Both of them. The feeling of accomplishment you get for beating the game is hurt a bit by either ending. All that said, the lore is interesting. It just needs to be brought out more instead of hiding. First of all, the game is hard. You're going to die at some point. But the challenge is fair for the most part. The difficulty doesn't come from the rules of the game changing or from sudden pitfalls or anything. It comes from just straight up challenge. For the gameplay itself, let's start with making your character. Now you can just use some of the basic character sets or spend a lot of time getting your character to look exactly how you want. The other important thing here is picking your class. Now in this case, your class just decides your starting stats and equipment. This means you don't have to worry too much about your starting class. If you change your mind later, you can decide to pick up some magic or be able to swing a sword, you can change. It will be harder to do this for some classes, but with enough time spent getting souls, you can pull it off. Which brings me to one of the unique things about this game. Souls. Souls are basically money and experience all rolled up into one. So you use souls for pretty much everything. Leveling up, buying items, repairing equipment, and upgrading equipment. With souls being so important to getting stronger, it makes death really bad. When you die, you lose all your souls and humanity, but the game isn't completely heartless. If you can get back to where you died, you can pick up your bloodstain and get it all back. If you die again before you get your bloodstain back, though, you leave a new one and the old one disappears forever. In this way, death is either incredibly frustrating or not even a bother, depending on how many souls you had on you when you died. Leveling up is pretty simple. The cost of leveling up is determined by your soul level. This is simply the overall level of your character. Each time you spend souls to level up a stat point, your soul level goes up by 1. Each time this happens, the cost of the next stat point goes up. This makes it so later in the game it becomes harder to level up a stat even if you haven't raised it at all. So making a balanced character will require putting effort into grinding for the souls to get the stats that you want. Upgrading is much simpler now. There are now fewer types of resources you need and it's easier to get them. The only little hiccup in this is you need to get embers as well as having to go to different blacksmiths for certain weapons. While you can upgrade the weapons at the bonfire, you can't make big changes to it without a blacksmith doing it for you. The Ember's biggest problem is that you have to get them again on each Plus game. The last thing to explain when we get to the actual fighting are Bonfires and Humanity. The first basically acts as checkpoints. You'll respawn at the last one you rested at. While resting, you are fully healed and can do various actions depending on the items you have bought and such. Normal enemies do respawn when you rest though, so you can't kill something, then go back to the bonfire and heal, then just walk past its dead body. Humanity is another unique thing to this game. Your character basically has two modes, human and hollow. The difference between these two modes is while human, you have the ability to summon other players and NPCs to help you, but you can be invaded by other players and NPCs to try to steal your humanity. While hollow, you are basically alone and not able to get help. You get humanity through people rating your comets up, certain items, or by helping people online or killing them. Last thing here is your humanity stat itself. The number in the upper left by your health bar is how much humanity you have on you. The more you have, the better you can resist curse, and it raises your magic find. You can either stockpile humanity to raise these bonuses, or you can spend it to turn back into a human and to kindle the bonfires. Kindling increases how many healing items you can carry while resting at that bonfire. So that is the basic system. The fighting itself is rather simple and the controls are easy to learn with no problems. Except for one little thing. Normally in a game when you get hit, the action you were doing would be cancelled. But here when you get hit at the right time, your action won't be cancelled, and when you get back up, it'll be like your action was queued up. Well, that doesn't happen often. When it does happen, it can cause a lot of stress. Say you wanted to attack, then got hit. Now you want to heal. But the game will attack first before you can move, heal, or do anything else. In terms of ways of playing, there are a lot. It pretty much comes down to all the class options at the beginning, but of course you can mix and match if you have the stats for it. The main thing I want to talk about here is your stamina and armor. Stamina is the way the game makes it so you can't just combo something to death and then move quickly out of the way of an attack. Running, rolling, blocking, and attacking all take stamina. If you don't have enough stamina to act, then you can't do it. This makes it so you have to be careful of what you do in a fight. Attack too much and then you won't be able to dodge or block. How much stamina it takes to attack is based on the weapon used. Lighter weapons don't drain much, while heavy weapons you can swing only a few times before you're out of stamina. This system makes it so you can't be reckless and just charge into the unknown. Doing that will leave you out of stamina, surrounded, and you will die. It also makes it so unless you have a heavy shield, strong attacks will break through and still hurt you. So this makes it seem like wearing heavy armor would be the good thing. Well, yes and no. First, the yes. You take less damage and enemies can't interrupt you easily. The downside is that you move slower and your stamina regenerates slower. So there are many different ways to play through the game, which, apart from how you choose to fight, is also made clear by the fact that there are multiple paths to go around to reach the end. There is no real set path, though there are certain things you'll have to do in order to beat the game on that playthrough. The game hits that perfect balance of being simple enough that you can learn the basic controls really fast, but complex enough that there's a lot to learn to truly master it. The only real issue with this game is the lack of telling you the story. If it wasn't for that, this game would be getting one score higher. This was the only flaw I saw in this game, which happens to be my favorite game from 2011. Final score, 9 out of 10.